Hello. I thought I'd get right to the point and just ask the question, are women better than men in data? So I'm going to try and approach this as a proper analyst would, with fact-based insight and a bit of my experience through the career ladder, and come to a conclusion at the end. I thought I'd start talking about the data landscape that we all work in now. The single customer view is absolutely vital to analysts trying to understand insights about customers, drawing insights, and it's the traditional landscape that feeds a lot of companies. It's absolutely essential to teams like mine in trying to understand customers and explain them to the company and draw strategies from them. And this is the traditional environment we've got used to. Big data has come onto the scene, and in order for us to keep our competitive advantage, we ignore it at our peril. Now, big data it's all sorts of things. It's certainly not traditional. It's chaotic. It needs data science intervention because there's just so much data to troll through. And what we need to try and ascertain is, of all of that data, what are the important bits that we can use within a business to drive strategies and to generate more profits for the business. What I would say about the two of them, if you haven't achieved the single customer view, which is the easier, more traditional thing, I don't think you're ready to delve into big data. I think you need one before the other. All we're trying to do is solve business problems. The questions are quite easy. Behaviours of customers are getting more and more complicated, and so is the data. I've worked in financial services most of my professional career, and the problem I've found is the structure of the executive within the company, trying to get data in there when it's not at the right level within the company. It doesn't have the representation. What I found is we tend to get wedged into marketing, which is a good place, but it just doesn't give us the power and the clout we need for a strategic solution for the company. That's my experience, but I thought I'd look elsewhere to see what's happening. And I found this recent Experian study where they found that 35% of companies manage their data centrally through a central director, which means that 63% lack a coherent centralized approach. And the bulk of organizations have data management strategies that vary by department, which makes it really difficult to try and pin all the data together into a coherent view. So 99% of companies believe that achieving a single customer view is important to their business, and they're putting money behind this. They're really going for it. But despite the high level of priority, only 24% of companies have actually achieved a single customer view today. So that's a pretty bad statistic. And I can't help but think if the structure of companies looked more like this, with data in an executive position, that companies would be more successful in achieving this and being able to move on to the really difficult problems that we've got to solve as businesses. So let's talk a little bit about data in business. Data tends to be invisible. It's there, it's vital to everyone within the business. I tend to hear about it quite a lot because customers are quite savvy and quite sophisticated, and they go straight to the top. So if your data isn't sorted out, complaints will go straight to the MD, come back down, and their customer complaints, serious complaints, that need to be sorted out. And what you tend to find is you spend a lot of your time firefighting, which is a real tragedy because data's got so many hidden gems within it. But if you spend all of your time trying to fix the problems, you don't really have enough time or energy to look at the value that data can bring you. So that's just an observation I've made about where teams spend most of their energy with data. Now let's start talking about men in data, or men in organizations in general. I tend to find that they have other options open to them within organizations. Certainly ambitious men will look at just the shape of a company and they'll look for progression. And if they want to move up, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that if data isn't at the top of the organization at executive level, there are limited opportunities for moving up through your career within data. So I think men who are ambitious find something else to do, which might be good news for women, because as data gets more and more recognized within companies, there is an opportunity for women who have experience within data to really move up, hone in on their skills, and progress within an organization. So let's talk about the skills that you need within data to be a data analytics professional. I've broken them down into 3 areas. I think you've got to be an inquisitive problem solver. You've really got to be someone who gets to the heart of problems, wants to make a difference for your organization, and there really aren't any problems you shouldn't be able to solve. Your scale will be between very easy things to solve, such as single customer view databases, and very difficult to deal with the big data within an organization. I think the type of person you have to be is a very passionate person. You really believe, you really want to make a difference for the company. The second thing you've really got to be strong on is communication. You've got to have fantastic communication skills, and it's communications at every level within the company. As we've heard today, it's vitally important. You will be explaining a lot of technical things to non-technical audiences, and the messages are very important. You've got to be able to get them out. The third thing is to be technically adept. I think to be top of your game as a data analyst, you've got to be strong in all of these things. And there are things that you will find only you can fix for the organization. You've got to be able to talk to the technical people, to the IT people, even to your own team, to lead that vision and show them the way of how you can get through some of the problems that will be thrown at you. And there will be lots of roadblocks that you face. But in order to solve them, you've got to be strong in all of these 3 areas. Otherwise, you're going to fall down with delivery. I found a study by McKinsey called Women Matter that I found absolutely fantastic. The study suggests that companies where women are most strongly represented at top management level perform the best. It is a fantastic read for just understanding what are the barriers that hold women back. And this extends far beyond data. This was a comprehensive study that looked at senior people within organizations across a wide spectrum of industries and across a wide spectrum of countries. So if we start, I've just pulled out a few things from the study that I thought were quite relevant to data. The first one is self-image. And what it found was 70% of men rate themselves higher than their co-workers, whereas 70% of women rate their own performance as equivalent to that of their co-workers. I think this is probably true in a lot of areas, but within data, I don't think it's necessarily true. What I've found is there doesn't seem to be a lot of competition, either within companies or when you're looking outside, when you're looking for other roles. I think Laura mentioned it's quite easy to move around the industry and find yourself other roles within data. So in terms of self-image, if this is something that holds women back, I don't think it should be a barrier within data. When we want to talk about ambition, we know that men are very competitive, tend to be very ambitious. But what the study found was that on the same project, men demonstrate 100% ambition, even if they only have 50% of the required skills, whereas women will be concerned about only having 80% of the required skills. And I think it is true. I think women feel they need to be very confident in order to do a job properly, do the job very well. Men just seem to be able to go forth knowing that they can fill in the bits when they have to. So they've got that natural confidence that helps them overcome barriers for promotion within companies. I think that within data, again, this shouldn't be a barrier for women, because women should be armed and dangerous with so much information that they've drawn from the database, from the company. They should know more about the company than a lot of people within the company. They'll have insights that just aren't available to everyone else. So it is something that I think women can overcome. Just generally, in terms of seeing themselves as extremely or very ambitious, 48% of men see themselves this way, compared to only 35% of women. I think it's a shame that women don't seem to be able to achieve their ambitions to the same rate as men. Another very important thing that the study brought out was the opt-out rate of women. Found that 93% of women who've taken a career break, only 74% of them return to work. And of those, only 40% have found full-time work. I would suspect only 40% of them want full-time work, because when you're trying to balance a career and children, full-time work just isn't always the best answer, especially when they're very young. And I think, again, I see this as a really good opportunity for women. I think that employers who need data professionals are willing to be extremely flexible with women. There's a lot more flexibility now than there was when my children were young. I did work through full time, and that was fine. But I think there are a lot more employers now that just want committed, good data professionals, and there are a lot more opportunities for that. I also see it as an opportunity for women to really hone in on the skills you need to be a good data analytics professional. And with the plan to go back armed and dangerous when you return to full-time work, there's no reason why you can't use your career break or your part-time part of your career to really strengthen the areas that you need to strengthen to be top of your game in the 3 areas that I've highlighted. I thought I'd just mention the boardroom. I'm in the most senior position I've ever been in, and there are just things, this is a bit of, if I knew then what I know now, and I suppose rising up through my career without executive level representation in data in the boardroom, it's not a shocker that when you do get to the boardroom, they don't understand the problems, they don't understand anything about your world and what you've done. And remember the traits of the male, especially the alpha male in the boardroom if it's full of men. 100% ambition, even if they've only got 50% of the skills. Now, I'm not for a minute suggesting that the boardroom is full of men that aren't the top of their game. They're running the company, the MD has employed them within their own teams. They're experts in their own fields, and they're supported by teams of experts. The trouble is, data isn't there. So what I found is possibly a few porcupines are being told, and it's really easy to get into trouble and say the wrong thing at the wrong time. So you've just got to be aware. Maybe a bit of networking before you get to the boardroom to avoid any brawls that you can't take away once you're there. You don't want any Alan Sugar moments. So, as this is about getting to the top within data, I thought I'd just summarize my top tips of what you need to do to get there. First one, skill up. Make sure that you're top of your career, you're the best you can be within all those 3 aspects that you've got to be. Network. Network is something that women are naturally quite good at, and we've just heard men are not. It's very difficult to network with men, but you have to get out there and do that. And I don't know, for me, I find it's really easy to talk to men who are friends and husbands' friends, that sort of thing, dinner parties. But in business, I do find it more difficult to talk to men, but it's really important. So I think it's something you just have to find a way and overcome it. Take as much as you can get from your employer. Training, if you move, any employer, they've got the money, they've got the software. There's so much opportunity to learn new skills, and you should always be trying to stay on top of what's out there in the marketplace and use whatever training you can get from your employer. Money, that's for you. Make sure you get paid what you're worth. Take the responsibility in the top projects. There's usually not too many people competing to work on a lot of data projects, so it's a really good opportunity, good to raise your profile within the company if you can get involved in those projects. Be honest about the glass ceiling. Every time you hit it, you should react. I've hit the glass ceiling so many times, sometimes I'm tempted to leave my cycle helmet on when I get to the office in the morning. But joking aside, you should have no problem moving around, and it's probably better for you than staying in a company. Certainly staying in a company that won't support you. If you put your heart and soul into delivering a project, and then your end-of-year review comes and you're told you're just getting the same thing that you got last year and the year before that with no recognition or acknowledgement for what you've achieved, it's definitely time to move on. It's just not good enough. And you'll usually find that going down the road, someone will bite your arm off to have the skills that you can bring to the table and the change you can bring and deliver to their company. So be brave, don't be afraid, don't stay in a job you're unhappy with, especially if you feel you've been treated unfairly. Draw as much development as you can from colleagues, management, even people you hire. If you're hiring some data scientists to do some really clever modeling for you, learn from what they can tell you, from what they can show you. And certainly, I find within data, because of the structure of it, quite often the person I'm reporting into knows absolutely nothing about my world and what I do. But they do know things that I need to learn. They know about the business. There's always something you can draw from everyone. And sometimes it's not helpful if they can't help you with some of the problems that you've got, but they can help you with other problems, and make sure that you appreciate that and work together and just draw as much as you can get out of them. Get control of the budget within your role if you can. This shouldn't be a problem. From quite early on in my career, I had control of the data budget, but especially if you find you're moving around companies, it's quite good to take a look at what's been put in place by your predecessor, because often data isn't understood, and you might find you've got 4 or 5 contracts with companies that are doing the same thing for you. You've got to tidy it up and use the budget wisely to make sure that you're delivering the best solution that you can to the company. And if you've got control of the budget, you don't have to beg for the money every time you want to make a change and do something. Build up a very good network of suppliers that you can trust. This is an extension of your team when you're working in data. If you find your structure is similar to the structure I've worked with, where data isn't represented at executive level, it might be that you've got to implement some tactical solutions, and I have implemented a few single customer view databases tactically through suppliers that have done it outside the organisation for cheaper than we could have achieved it within the organisation, and it's delivered, and it's given my team a tool that they can work with, which makes a huge difference. And if you move from company to company, you'll be worth a lot of money to these suppliers as well. So make sure they understand that and you get a good deal from them when you move. So, conclusion. Are women better than men in data? I do think that there are so many opportunities for women in data, partially because of the climate that we work in, because of the way companies are structured. There is no structure at the top. I think women are more willing to work with that structure just because of the nature of our lives, wanting to take career breaks at certain time. It lends itself to the flexibility that women might need over men. It also means that women can focus on the skills they need to be top of their game. Now, McKinsey, one of the things they said when women opt out, they interviewed a lot of senior people in organisations, and they said, we would love to employ women at senior levels, but they're just not there. And although I think that may be true, in data, I think women have the edge. I think there are a lot of women there. There are a lot of women ready for the next level. They probably need some help with development, but it's not on the data side that they need the development. They need to get over that ledge into the man's world and onto the executive level to inform decisions, but proper database decisions within organisations. So I guess I'd have to say, in my opinion, women have the edge, but that's just my opinion. I hope it's been helpful.
Thank you. Stacey, that's great.